The morning sun touched the white marble of Arlington National Cemetery, making it shine like snow. People were already gathering at the tomb of the unknown soldier, waiting for the changing of the guard. It was a quiet place, a place where even the wind seemed to move carefully. Families stood still, children whispered, and veterans took off their caps. Every person there understood that this ground was sacred. Every person, except one. A teenage boy named Tyler stood with his mother near the front row. He was tall for his age, wearing a shiny jacket and new sneakers. His mother, Lydia, had wanted him to see something that would teach him respect and history. But Tyler looked bored. He held his phone in his hand, scrolling through videos and messages while people around him waited silently. "This is so boring," he muttered under his breath. His mother gently touched his arm. "Please, Tyler, just watch. This place is special." Tyler rolled his eyes. "It's just soldiers walking around. What's the big deal?" Lydia sighed but said nothing. She hoped once the ceremony began, her son would understand. Then the sound of steps echoed from the pathway, a sharp, perfect rhythm. Every person turned. The tomb guard appeared, wearing a dark blue uniform, white gloves, and a rifle held perfectly against his shoulder. His shoes shone like black glass, and every step was measured, calm, and full of purpose. Tyler looked up but didn't seem impressed. "He's just walking back and forth," he whispered, smirking. His friend next to him, who had come along, gave a quiet laugh. "Looks like a robot," the friend said. A few people turned their heads at the sound of laughter. One elderly man gave a hard look, but Tyler only shrugged. He was used to doing what he wanted. The guard's movements were slow and deliberate, but every motion had meaning. The soldier turned, faced the tomb, and stood perfectly still. The silence was deep, the kind that made hearts feel heavy. Tyler raised his phone and whispered, "I'm gonna film this. Maybe I'll make a funny video." His friend snorted. Lydia turned sharply. "Tyler, stop it. This isn't a joke." He ignored her. When the guard turned again, Tyler mocked the way the soldier moved. He exaggerated the steps, swinging his arms stiffly. A few gasps came from the crowd. Someone whispered, "Have some respect." But Tyler didn't stop. He laughed louder, trying to make his friend laugh too. His phone camera was still recording. The quiet around him turned cold and tense. Then, something unexpected happened. The sound of the guard's boots suddenly stopped. The sharp click of the last step echoed, then silence. The guard turned sharply, facing the direction of the sound, facing Tyler. The air seemed to freeze. His voice came out strong, deep, and clear. "Trained by years of discipline, it is requested," he said, his tone carrying across the plaza, "that everyone maintains a level of silence and respect." The words hit like thunder. The entire place went still. The laughter died instantly. Tyler froze. His heart jumped in his chest. The sound of the guard's voice was not angry, but powerful, a voice that demanded respect without needing to shout again. The air felt heavier, and even the birds above stopped singing. Tyler's phone slipped from his hand and hit the ground with a soft crack. For the first time, he didn't know what to do. His mother stared at him, her face pale. Around them, people whispered quietly. "Good," someone said. "He needed that," Lydia whispered. "Do you have any idea where you are, Tyler? That man stands there in the heat, in the rain, even in storms. He's guarding soldiers who died for this country. For people they never even met." Tyler swallowed hard. He could feel dozens of eyes on him, but the guard had already turned back, resuming his silent march. His steps fell into rhythm again, slow and steady, as if nothing had happened. The moment had passed, but the weight of it stayed heavy in Tyler's chest. He wanted to say something, maybe "I'm sorry," but no words came out. He just stood there, staring at the guard, feeling smaller than ever before. His mother gently took his shoulder and said, "Now watch." Really watch. For the first time, Tyler did. He watched every move the guard made, every turn, every step, every second of silence. It was precise, it was perfect, and it was filled with a kind of respect he had never seen before. The rifle moved with the soldier's body like it was part of him. His face never changed, his focus never broke. It wasn't a show, It was honor. When the ceremony ended, the crowd stayed quiet for a few seconds longer, as if afraid to break the spell. Then people started to walk away slowly, still whispering about what had happened. Tyler stayed behind. He looked at the white tomb, a simple stone with no names. Just the words, "Here rests in honored glory an American soldier known but to God." He read it again and again. The words felt different now. He thought about what it meant, that there were soldiers who never came home, whose names no one even knew. But still, they were remembered. Lydia stood beside him quietly. She didn't scold him anymore. She could see he had learned more from that silence than from any lecture she could ever give. After a few minutes, an older man wearing a veteran's hat walked up slowly. His steps were careful, and his chest was full of medals that caught the sunlight. He stopped near Tyler and said softly, "You're the one the guard spoke to, aren't you?" Tyler nodded, his face red with shame. "Yes, sir, I didn't mean it. I just didn't think it was that serious." The old man looked at him kindly but firmly. "Son, that man you mocked, he's a sentinel. They train for months, sometimes years. They stand there through storms, snow, and heat. They don't move. They don't break focus. They do it for those who can't stand anymore, for the soldiers who die without a name." Tyler looked down. "I didn't know. That's the thing," the old man said. "Most people don't, but when you do know, you can choose to respect it." The old man gave a small smile, patted Tyler's shoulder, and walked away. Tyler stood still, thinking about every word. He could still hear the guard's voice in his mind, echoing like it came from the marble itself. "It is requested that everyone maintains a level of silence and respect." His mother touched his arm gently. "Let's go." They walked slowly toward the exit, but halfway there, Tyler stopped. He turned around one last time. The guard was still there, still marching, still perfect. The boy felt something strange, pride, guilt, and admiration all at once. He whispered softly, "I'm sorry." As they left the cemetery, he didn't touch his phone again. He didn't joke. He didn't speak. He just kept thinking about that voice and what it meant. That night, he lay awake in his room, staring at the ceiling. He remembered the faces of the people at the tomb, the veterans, the families, the mothers with pictures of sons they had lost. He thought about the silence, about how it wasn't just quiet, it was respect made real. For the first time, Tyler understood something deep. That respect wasn't just about saying sorry or following rules. It was about understanding what others had given up. Those soldiers had died so others could live freely, laugh freely, and even make mistakes like his. He realized he had made a fool of himself in a place that deserved the greatest respect. But he also knew he had been given a lesson, one that would stay with him for the rest of his life. The next morning, Tyler told his mother he wanted to learn more about the tomb. Lydia smiled softly. "I think that's a good idea," she said. They sat at the table and read about the tomb guards, how they were chosen, how they practiced every movement, how they memorized history and honored those who had fallen. Tyler read quietly, his eyes wide. He learned that the guard he had mocked might have been standing there for hours, in heat or cold, without ever breaking attention. He learned that those soldiers were not there for attention or applause. They were there because they believed some things must never be forgotten. That afternoon, Tyler looked at his phone, opened the video he had recorded, and deleted it without hesitation. He didn't want to remember that moment as a joke. He wanted to remember it as the day he learned what respect truly meant. He looked out the window and whispered the words again, the same words that had changed him. It is requested that everyone maintains a level of silence. In respect, he promised himself he would live by those words. No matter where he went, the lesson had started with laughter, but it ended with silence, the kind that meant understanding. And in that silence, Tyler finally grew up. The next morning, Tyler woke up earlier than usual. His mind was still full of the image of the tomb guard standing so still under the bright sun, not moving an inch, not even blinking as the world watched. He remembered the sound of the guard's voice, firm and steady. When he had said those words that had cut through the crowd like thunder, Tyler couldn't shake it off. It was like the voice had followed him home and now lived in his head. reminding him of the moment he had crossed a line he didn't even know existed. Downstairs, his mother, Lydia, was making breakfast. She looked tired but peaceful. Tyler came down quietly and sat at the table. For a while, he didn't say anything. Then, after a few minutes, he spoke softly. "Mom?" Lydia looked up. "Yes, honey? I was thinking about yesterday," he said. "About what I did." Her hand stopped moving. "I'm glad you're thinking about it, Tyler. What did you learn?" He stared at the floor for a long time. "I didn't understand before," he said slowly. "That guard wasn't just walking. He was honoring people who died for everyone. I thought it was just a show. But it's not. It's real." Lydia nodded. "Yes, it's one of the most respected places in the country. Those soldiers stand there in the rain, snow, or heat. They don't stop, even at night. It's about remembering the people who gave everything." Tyler nodded, his voice quiet. "I made fun of something that deserves respect. I want to make it right." His mother gave a soft smile. "Then start by learning. Understand what they do." That day after school, Tyler went to the library. He asked the librarian if there were any books about Arlington National Cemetery and the tomb of the unknown soldier. She looked at him with surprise. Most kids his age didn't ask about such things. She handed him a few books and said, "These might help you understand what it means to serve." He sat down by the window and opened the first book. The pages were filled with pictures of soldiers standing in the rain, marching in perfect rhythm, guarding the tomb day and night. He read about how hard it was to become a tomb guard, the months of training, the precision, the silence, the rules that had to be followed without mistake. Every movement had a purpose, every word a meaning. The more he read, the more he realized how wrong he had been. These weren't just soldiers, they were symbols of dedication, honor, and sacrifice. They guarded not just one grave, but the idea that some people's courage should never be forgotten. That night, Tyler sat at his desk and started writing. His teacher had given the class an essay assignment called "What Respect Means to Me." At first, he hadn't known what to write, but now he did. He wrote slowly, from his heart. He began, "Respect is not about being scared of someone. It's about understanding what they stand for. Yesterday, I learned what true respect means." He wrote about the guard, about how he had laughed without understanding, about the way the soldier had stopped and spoken, not with anger, but with calm power. He described how that one moment had changed everything. He wrote that respect is not shown with words alone, but through silence, attention, and understanding. When he finished, he felt different, lighter somehow. It was the first time he had written something that came from inside him, not from what the teacher wanted to hear. He handed in his essay the next day without saying a word. A few days later, his teacher called him to the front of the class. "Tyler," she said with a smile, "would you like to read your essay out loud?" He hesitated. The thought of everyone looking at him made him nervous, but he nodded. He stood up, holding the paper tightly in his hands. When he started reading, the room grew quiet. He told them about the tomb guard, about the silence, and about his mistake. He didn't try to hide his embarrassment or his regret. He just told the truth. When he finished, the room stayed silent for a moment. Then his classmates started to clap softly. His teacher had tears in her eyes. "Tyler," she said gently, "you learned something that many people never understand. I'm proud of you." A few days later, his essay was shared on the school's website. Then a local newspaper found it and printed it in the community section. People began to share it online. Veterans left comments saying, "Well said, young man, and we need more kids like you." Tyler couldn't believe it. What had started as a mistake had turned into something good. A reminder to others about the importance of respect. One morning, Lydia walked into his room holding her phone. "Tyler," she said with a proud smile, "a retired soldier just wrote to the paper asking if he could meet you. He said he was touched by your words." Tyler was shocked. "Really?" She nodded. "He said he served as a tomb guard 20 years ago." The next weekend, they went to meet the man at a small coffee shop near the cemetery. The man was tall, older now, with gray hair and a calm smile. He wore a simple jacket with a small pin that said "Tomb Guard." When they shook hands, Tyler could feel the man's firm grip, the kind of handshake that came from years of discipline. The man said, "I read your essay, son. You made a mistake, but you did something most people never do. You learned from it and spoke from your heart." Tyler felt humbled. "Thank you, sir. I just wanted to say I'm sorry for how I acted that day." The man nodded. "Apology accepted. You know, we all make mistakes. What matters is what we do after." He smiled kindly. "And you did good." They talked for almost an hour. The man told him stories about guarding the tomb during heavy rain, about how they practiced every movement again and again, and how even a single step mattered. Tyler listened with respect, asking questions, wanting to know everything. Before they left, the man said, "You should come back to the tomb again. This time, watch with understanding." Tyler nodded. "I will." A few weeks later, Tyler and Lydia returned to Arlington. The air was cool and quiet. The marble shone under the soft sunlight. Tyler stood near the front again, his hands in his pockets, but this time he wasn't holding a phone. He just watched. The ceremony began. The guard stepped out, every movement sharp, every second deliberate. The rifle glimmered as he turned. The silence was deep again, just like before. But this time, Tyler didn't feel bored. He felt proud. He felt something strong inside, respect, gratitude, and a strange calm. When the ceremony ended, Tyler and his mother waited until the crowd began to leave. He wanted to stay a little longer. Then, after a few minutes, he saw a familiar figure step out from the shadows near the pathway. It was the same guard from that first day, the one who had spoken to him. Tyler's heart started to race. He took a deep breath and walked forward. Lydia stayed behind, watching quietly. When Tyler reached the guard, he spoke softly. "Sir, I don't know if you remember me. I was the one who disrespected you that day." The guard stood straight, his face calm. Tyler continued, "I came to say I'm sorry. I didn't understand before, but now I do. Thank you for teaching me what respect really means." For a moment, the guard didn't move. Then, in a simple, silent gesture, he gave a small nod. It was quick but meaningful. Tyler understood what that nod meant: acceptance, forgiveness, and acknowledgement. He didn't need any more words. He stepped back, saluted the guard awkwardly, and turned to leave. His mother smiled proudly as he walked toward her. As they left the cemetery, a soft wind moved through the trees, carrying the sound of distant footsteps. Tyler looked back one last time at the guard, still standing, still marching, still perfect. On the ride home, Lydia looked at him and said, "You've grown up, Tyler." He smiled a little. "I think that guard taught me more than any school ever could." From that day on, Tyler's life changed in small but real ways. He became more careful with his words, more thoughtful about how he treated people. When he saw soldiers in uniform, he went out of his way to thank them. When he heard others making fun of something serious, he spoke up. At graduation 2 years later, Tyler's teacher mentioned his essay again. She said, "Respect isn't something we demand. It's something we earn by understanding others." And sometimes, it takes one brave moment to realize that. Tyler never forgot those words or that day at the tomb. Even years later, when he had children of his own, he brought them there one afternoon. They stood quietly as the guard marched, and his young son whispered, "Dad, why is that man walking like that?" Tyler smiled softly and said, "He's not just walking. He's honoring heroes." His son looked up with wide eyes, and Tyler added, "When I was your age, I didn't understand. But this place taught me something important. Always respect those who serve, even when they don't ask for it." As they stood together in the quiet, the guard's steps echoed once again across the marble. Tyler placed his hand on his son's shoulder and whispered, "Silence and respect. Always remember that." And in that moment, Tyler realized something beautiful. The lesson that had once humbled him had now become something he could pass on. The laughter from that day was long gone, replaced by understanding. And every time he remembered the voice that had changed him, his heart filled with gratitude. The words never left him, not even years later. They lived in his memory like a quiet promise. It is requested that everyone maintains a level of silence and respect.